He invited a few friends over for a barbecue, and that was where everything started. He moved without even a second of hesitation. While I could barely comprehend what was happening, my body reacted intensely, making me feel as though I was about to lose control. Greetings to everyone who follows this channel. I know that many of you may judge, criticize, and even condemn me by the time this story ends. However, I must confess that I truly regret what happened. My name is Sophie, and I have been married to Gabriel for 3 years, even though we are a young couple. I am 26, and he is 31. The start of our relationship was simple and nothing extraordinary. We worked together at a pizzeria. I was a waitress, and he took care of deliveries after dating for 1 year. We chose to get married, and we have always shared a very strong connection. Trust between us was mutual, and respecting each other's personal space always helped us avoid pointless arguments. Since I was very young, I have always been more introspective, and when it came to intimacy, shyness always took over. But everything changed. After Gabriel entered my life, he was always patient and helped me face my fears and insecurities. At the beginning, our intimacy was calmer, but that was not because of a lack of effort on his side. Gabriel has always had a desire far greater than mine, which I believe is common among men who seem to develop such thoughts from an early age. As time went by, my lack of interest began to weigh on us. He constantly wanted to try something different, while all I wanted was to rest, lie down, and sleep. I even made up headaches just to avoid any attempt. It was then that he suggested a few ideas to heat up our relationship. The first one was buying some toys at first. I did not like the idea, and it ended up causing an ugly argument between us. I asked Gabriel if he had lost his mind, thinking I was just anyone he met out on the street. My words hurt him deeply, and he never brought the subject up again after that day. But after thinking about it, realized that maybe I had been too harsh. I decided to give his suggestions a chance. After all, he only wanted to improve what we already had. We agreed to go to a specialty store together, and although I felt a bit embarrassed at first, I soon started to feel more at ease. I was amazed by the enormous variety of products available. That market must surely move millions. We spent a long time browsing the shelves, and in the end, I chose a small, vibrating toy, discreet and delicate, almost like a lipstick. Gabriel didn't seem very satisfied with my choice and said, "Love, look at everything they have here. Are you sure you only want to take this? Why don't we get a few more things?" I told him then that he could choose whatever he wanted, because I trusted his taste. A wide smile spread across his face, and he eagerly went off to explore the store on his own. In the end, we chose blindfolds, some lubricants, and even a few costumes. When we reached the last aisle, came across several prosthetics of different sizes and colors. This was completely new to me. I had never seen anything like that up close. When I turned around, I saw Gabriel holding a black prosthesis. I couldn't hide my surprise and shock. That object was enormous. It looked almost the size of an arm. Laughing nervously, I asked, "Love, who is that for?" And very confidently he replied, "It's for you. Relax. And trust me, I decided to give in. Because after all, we were there to find a solution together. We paid for everything and went back home full of anticipation, especially Gabriel, who was overflowing with excitement. His enthusiasm was so obvious that anyone could notice it. As soon as we arrived at our apartment, we didn't waste any time. We opened a bottle of wine and prepared some snacks. I felt excited and also a little curious about the new toys we had bought. However, the huge toy Gabriel had chosen kept returning to my thoughts. It puzzled me how naturally he handled it, especially given its intimidating size and dark color. As time passed, we laughed, talked, and drank, and this whole experience felt like it was bringing us even closer. Before I go on, let me remind you to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. We often share spicy stories that are usually intensified by the effects of wine. Something inside me changed in a strange way, and I began to feel more and more curious about the toys we had purchased. I called Gabriel and suggested that we go to the bedroom to explore our new purchases more carefully. We unpacked everything, took the items out of their bags, and examined each product. But my attention was completely fixed on that prosthesis. The level of detail was astonishing. veins, contours. I could not understand how something like that was even possible. It felt like an unreal creation. After several minutes focused on that prosthesis, we decided to continue. With the experiment, Gabriel, always so attentive and gentle, softly asked if I was mentally ready. I wasn't, but my body seemed to crave this new experience. We started kissing intensely, and the wine helped wash away my insecurities. Attitude was something I had never felt before, holding me firmly and kissing me as if I were the most desired woman in the world. While he kissed me, my eyes could not look away from that huge toy. I kept thinking about its size. It had to be over 22 centimeters for sure. Compared to the toy, Gabriel was not small, but that object was something else entirely massive. This was confusing me, and my mind began filling with wild thoughts, unable to resist. I asked Gabriel to take the toy. Surprised, he asked which one, my love, you want to start with. That already we haven't even really begun without a second. I thought I told him to take the biggest one. The wine and desire had completely taken control of me. Gabriel, without hesitation, grabbed the prosthesis, placed it in front of me, and suggested that I touch it, feel the texture, and understand how it worked when I placed my hands on it. The difference in size shocked me. My hands could barely wrap around it. I squeezed it, explored every detail, and it was driving me more and more crazy. Laughing softly, I asked Gabriel, "This can't be real, right? There's no way someone could actually be that size." "It's impossible," he laughed and denied it, saying men like that did exist. And if I didn't believe him, he could prove it. Confused, I asked him how he would do that. Gabriel, still amused, got out of bed and went to grab his phone from the living room. When he returned, he sat beside me and started showing me adult videos. We watched them together one after another, and I became increasingly surprised and aroused. I had no idea men of that size actually existed. The videos that intrigued me the most were the ones with more than one man. Watching two men with one woman set my mind to places I had never imagined. Gabriel noticed how involved I was getting, handed me my phone, and kept teasing me. I was already completely overwhelmed with excitement, something I had never felt before. As he moved down, kissing my skin closer and closer to where I wanted him, my eyes stayed locked on that huge toy lying on the bed. I decided to take control. I picked up the toy. Gabriel immediately noticed what I was doing, but without breaking the find rhythm, he kept kissing me and touching me with an intensity that left me more and more and more on the edge of delirium. I tried to place the toy in my mouth, but it was far too big. It barely fit, and I had to open my mouth wide just to manage it. When I finally succeeded, an overwhelming sensation took over me. It was a perfect mix of stimuli, and I trembled for several seconds, reaching a level of pleasure I had not felt in years. The play did not stop there. Instead, my surrender became complete, leaving me with an unstoppable urge to try that toy in a completely different way. My readiness was undeniable. My body reacting on its own, I asked Gabriel to use it on me, and without hesitation, I handed him the toy. He began by softly rubbing and pressing it against me. Soon, the first part slid inside, creating an intense feeling, as if it was stretching me beyond anything I had imagined, yet at the same time, it felt incredibly good. I had never experienced anything like it before. Nothing I had tried could compare to this. We spent several minutes trying to make the most of the toy, but it was difficult. It felt like it simply did not fit properly. That was when Gabriel suggested using a condom. We did not have one at home since we were married and had never needed one. I said it was not necessary and suggested we could leave it for another time, but he strongly disagreed. "Wait a moment," he said quickly. Leaving to go buy one, he did not even put on slippers. While Gabriel was gone, I stayed absorbed in my phone, watching videos. The scenes became hotter and hotter, and as I watched those actors, my body responded even more intensely. Everyone's impressive performance only increased my excitement. My curiosity grew about how the women in those videos managed 3 or even 4 men of that size. The priceless idea of using the toy alone While Gabriel was away, excited me even more. I decided to try it by myself, thinking that if they could do it, so could I. I positioned the toy upright and slowly lowered myself onto it. This time, it was easy. First part entered smoothly, and within seconds, I was almost completely on it. The pleasure quickly overwhelmed me without thinking much. I started moving faster and faster, as if I were riding without stopping within minutes. I reached climax, but as many women know, it does not end there. I kept enjoying that moment for a long time until my body finally gave in to exhaustion. I collapsed onto the bed, completely drained, staring at the ceiling, unable to move. It was only after a few minutes that I realized Gabriel was taking longer than expected. The nearest pharmacy was only 5 minutes from home. As the tiredness and the effects of the wine washed over me, I could not resist and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up the next morning, I felt scared and searched for Gabriel. When I turned, I saw him lying beside me, sleeping peacefully, and the room was spotless as if nothing had happened. I got up early and decided to take a shower as soon as the water touched me. I felt the after effects of the wine and memories of the previous night's wild moments came rushing back. How had I allowed myself to go so far with that toy? And those videos' guilt slowly appeared. But another part of me found the entire experience extremely exciting. Sometimes introducing something new can ignite a relationship. In the weeks that followed, our days were incredible. We made love almost every day, experimenting with toys, costumes, and everything else. I became more and more involved, wanting more and more desire began to take control of me. And eventually, it consumed me. Started thinking that the toy might be even better if it were real. My internet searches became increasingly explicit, and I found myself addicted to watching adult videos. I wanted to live that experience in real life. At least once my mind could not stop thinking about it without feeling guilt or remorse. I knew I was wrong toward Gabriel, but deep down, he was the one who had ignited this flame inside me. I could no longer control my desires or the thoughts that kept invading my mind. Everything fell apart when, without planning, I turned my thoughts into actions. Let me be honest with you, it wasn't something I had intended. It happened spontaneously because I was vulnerable and couldn't resist. This occurred about a month ago when my husband received a promotion, work. He had been working tirelessly to earn this new position. And when he finally achieved it, we were overjoyed. We decided to celebrate with a barbecue at home. At first, it was meant to be just the two of us, as we always made special moments to celebrate his successes. But Gabriel suggested inviting some friends to join the celebration. I agreed, wanting to make the day even more memorable for him. While Gabriel welcomed his friends in the living room, I stayed in the kitchen, taking care of the preparations, seasoning the meats and organizing everything. Once I finished, I went out to the balcony where everyone had gathered. When I reached the door, I came face to face with Gabriel's group of friends. There were about 10 men, but 2 of them in particular caught my attention. They were tall, dark, and had physiques that would impress anyone. My mind immediately compared them to the men I had seen in the videos I had been watching. The resemblance was uncanny, and it stirred a desire in me that I knew I shouldn't feel. When Gabriel introduced me to them, I learned that the 2 were cousins. A warm flush spread across my face as I tried to hide my shyness. The night was delightful, and as time passed, I gradually felt more at ease. Everyone was drinking and enjoying themselves. We spent hours talking and laughing until, little by little, people started leaving. Eventually, it was just me, Gabriel, and his 2 cousins. Gabriel, already completely drunk, could barely stay awake. Concerned, I asked Douglas, one of the cousins, to take Gabriel to his room so he could rest. Meanwhile, I remained on the balcony with Nathan, the other cousin, tidying up the space. The silence between us was palpable, but my mind was elsewhere, full of racing thoughts. I couldn't stop thinking about the videos I had watched recently. The situation I found myself in mirrored the scripts of those scenes, and that made me uneasy. I wondered if another chance like this might ever arise. Were they truly that attractive? And that thought sparked a forbidden desire that began to flood my mind. What if something went terribly wrong? What if they rejected me? Or, Verse, told Gabriel everything I knew? It could completely ruin my life. Noticing my anxiety, Nathan asked worriedly if I was okay. I replied that everything was fine, just a bit tired from the busy day. Nathan suggested I sit down and relax, and then he poured me a generous glass of wine. We began talking, and as he finished tidying the balcony soon after Douglas returned, and remarked that Gabriel was asleep like a rock and that nothing could wake him that night. Nathan, noticing that I was still a little tense, suggested I relax further and mentioned that he could give me a massage he offered to focus, especially on my feet and I. Feeling a mix of shyness and curiosity, accepted. After all, what harm could a massage do? We went into the living room, and I sat on the couch, took off my shoes, and he began massaging my feet gently. His touch is firm yet precise, just what I needed after such a tiring day as Naughton. Worked on my feet, our conversation flowed naturally. Then, Douglas, sensing the relaxed mood, offered to help me unwind as well, saying he could massage my shoulders. I laughed and agreed with Nathan, attending to my feet, and Douglas working on my shoulders. I was enveloped by two serene and skilled individuals, their presence deeply soothing. The sensation was incredibly invigorating, their touches so perfectly synchronized that I felt progressively more relaxed, yet an underlying tension lingered unspoken slowly. Their movements grew increasingly intimate, and the conversation faded into silence, replaced by a charged desire that filled the room. It was clear they were waiting for a signal from me, so I decided I would not let the opportunity pass. I looked first into Nathan's eyes, then Douglas's, and in a whisper said I was ready for something more. They both, not very surprised, agreed immediately. What happened next was an explosion of desire and passion. A moment I never imagined experiencing that night would change everything for me. I never thought I would be with two men at the same time. Nathan stopped massaging my feet and began kissing them tenderly, his hands gliding down my thighs, as if he wanted to memorize every curve of my body. He noticed my reaction, and a wave of excitement surged through us, touching me, gently realizing how aroused I was. He went further without hesitation, soon exploring me deeply. With his mouth, Douglas, who was behind me, leaned close and whispered in my ear, making my skin shiver. "Can you handle this?" And he began sliding his hands and mouth down my neck, sending me into uncontrollable shivers. His hands pressed firmly beneath my blouse, while at that moment, poured everything he could into my mouth. It felt like I was reliving what I had imagined with the prosthesis, only unimaginably more intense. I felt control in that situation. In my hands and without hesitation, guided Douglas until he relaxed. Lying back on the couch, I straddled him, letting him enjoy the closeness as our movements synchronized perfectly. Nathan approached and held my waist. It was then that the connection between us intensified for minutes. I felt like I was in a movie. The sensation of power and being intensely desired was indescribable. The closeness grew, and the atmosphere seemed charged with a unique energy where touches and kisses intertwined, creating an all-encompassing intensity. For a moment, I thought I heard a distant sound in the hallway, but I reassured myself that everything was fine. There was no chance Gabriel would wake up after all the wine he had drunk. The hours that followed were marked by an almost perfect harmony between us. After many biting sessions, deep breathing, growing desire, and synchronized accelerated movements, we reached climax, and it felt as though time itself had stopped. A sense of complete fullness enveloped the room. I felt like the most powerful and desired woman, crazy yet exhilarated, but who said I didn't want to be crazy in that moment. That night, I surrendered entirely, exploring every possibility with the two of them. It was an experience that left me in pure ecstasy, something I never imagined I would experience. Indescribable sensation. After everything was over, they both got dressed and left, leaving me alone on the couch. I remained there, reflecting on what had just occurred. I turned to glance at the room where Gabriel slept, soundly completely unaware of what had happened in the living room. Then a wave of guilt and regret crashed over me. I loved my husband, and I had betrayed him in such a cruel way. It was never part of my plan. I got up slowly and went to the bedroom. I lay down beside Gabriel, who was calm and oblivious. I felt a lump in my throat and spent the entire night unable to sleep, tormented by my thoughts and the possible consequences of my actions. As dawn broke and Gabriel continued sleeping peacefully, I made a firm decision. I would never cheat on my husband again. The weight of guilt was suffocating. Gabriel didn't deserve that. He had always been an amazing husband, and I knew I needed to be the wife he deserved. I got up and took a bath, letting the water wash away, at least briefly, the shame and remorse that consumed me when Gabriel finally woke up. I had already made up my mind from that day forward. I promised myself I would remain faithful and honor the love we had built. The memory of that night lingered like a haunting, distant echo, imparting a profound lesson. I never betrayed my husband again, striving in every way to be the wife he truly deserved.